Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. We got a great show for you tonight. We're going to have some fun talking about legacy media, and more than that, we're going to talk about where you can go to get your news. I get so many calls from people, so many messages and comments on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all of it. With you guys saying, "Where am I supposed to get my news now?" Well, the gentleman we're going to talk with tonight started basically what's going to be the future of news. It is the future of news. And what does he call it? Your news. He's hiring citizen journalists. And I'm one of them. I'm doing some stuff. We're putting our shows on there. We're putting other information on there about Oregon and Montana. And he's going to tell you how it works. But it's super exciting because I don't know if you were paying attention to the news today, but Washington Post laid off a couple hundred people. ABC News, they're combining things like Good Morning America with other staff because they don't have enough people. They can't afford to keep people because they're irrelevant now to the public. And so, yeah, it's all because you guys are tired of the lies and you don't want to hear it anymore. You don't want to listen to you want real information. So Sam Anthony's going to come on and tell us a little bit about how this works. And we're going to talk about the press too. So hi, you guys. How are you? See you pumping down there. Hi, Kyle. What's going on? Your sponsor tonight is Chris Dental, Dr. Michael Bratlin. He loves conversation. He loves the fact that we have a free society and we are censor free. At least that's how we're going to act. And we're not going to listen to them when they tell us we have to shut up. Not gonna happen. So let me bring my guest on. Sam Anthony, welcome. Welcome to the crowd.
Hey, Rick. How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice to have you.
Excited to be here. Very excited.
Yeah. So what you tell people, first of all, kind of what you've done and what you've been through and kind of why you got this whole idea.
Well, I mean, I've been doing, your news for a long time, Rick, like more than I'd like to share with everybody, but it's been a long time. And, we believe that the legacy media was eventually going to collapse, not because they lied. I never thought anything about that. We were just thinking, like any industry, there's always something that replaces something else. Remember, right. There used to be something called a telegraph. And when was the last time you sent one, Rick? Okay. So there's always a product that replaces something else. So we believe that the internet was going to transform the media industry. And, we set out to build a platform that would ultimately replace the legacy media. Never in my life did I think it was going to be as important as it is. I just figured, there'd just be a transition and, but when I first woke up, because I have a partner that used to tell me, oh, the legacy media is lying. They're not telling the truth. I'm like, they're not lying to you. I used to say they're not lying. I mean, what's their upside for lying, right? And when Trump won in 2016, it was nothing but lies. I mean, it was like that's when the snake reared its head to me, and started just spewing lies. And I'm like, oh my God, you were right. And so it's just gotten absolutely worse. They haven't even held back anymore. Now they just manufacture stuff and run with it, right? Right. And so it even got to the point where Hillary Clinton created the fake dossier. Everybody, every mainstream media was touting that as this is the absolute fact. It's the holy grail. The guy's a Russian asset, right? And it was all debunked. It was completely false. How much money did we pay in tax dollars? For, I don't remember his name anymore, the tall, skinny guy, to show that this thing, when he couldn't find a damn thing, right? And we all knew he was never going to find anything because you had to actually manufacture it. So, that's when I realized what we do is extremely important. And what I've learned is he who controls the press controls everything, right? Because none of this, Rick, would ever have existed. I'm talking about all the problems we're facing in Washington with all the lies that are pumping out would never have existed if the mainstream media was actually telling the truth and calling them out for it. It would not have happened.
Yeah. And it's so weird to me, Sam. You look online and you'll see people and they're still writing stuff. And just for your information, this goes on YouTube and YouTube is still censoring. So when we talk about COVID, we don't say words or you can't say anything disparaging too much. But we see the information, the people they blocked during that time period, the doctors, the medical people that they censored. And then what we find out is all those people have turned out to be correct. And that is, I think that combined with what they tried to do to Trump and what they did with lawfare. And I think this is not just about Republicans. I mean, I know a lot of Democrats who are just going, okay, enough. We need to find some source of information that is not slanted and working for the Democrat Party. And I think that's where, I mean, that's pretty smart. I mean, well, you're kind of lucky too. I mean, who knew? You could have never guessed in a million years that it was going to turn. I mean, they're feeding you. I mean,
completely. I'm just feeding off the dead carcass. I get news reporters daily. I mean, I picked up almost 300 of them in the last few months. I mean, it's just
so
they have nowhere to go.
So Sam, tell people how your news works. So what is, these are citizen journalists.
Well, let's talk about the business model because,
okay,
for everybody knows, you could watch TV, watch local news, you could listen to radio, or you could read a newspaper, but you don't know how it gets put together. So I'm just going to share with you how it works. News organizations are aggregators of information. What I mean by that is, and Rick, you know what I'm talking about. People that have news will send a press release to the media, right? So if there's the Cancer Society in your market is having a 5K run, somebody from the Cancer Society sends a press release to the local radio, TV stations and newspapers, right? So That's the aggregation part. The media decides what they're going to air or publish, and most of it, goes in the garbage, depending on the market you're in. If you're in LA or Chicago or New York, they just get millions of stuff, so that they can't air or print it all, right? So what we are is an aggregator because we're local in every city in the United States. So our website is yournews.com. When you log in, your provider will tell me where you live. And I don't care if it's Phoenix, Chicago, Miami, right down to the zip code. If you block it, you just click change your location to put in your zip code. It'll take you to your city. So just imagine you're looking at any daily news website, but what I have is mega scale, okay? Because we publish content by subject and geography. So I could make a story appear in a city, like a city council meeting will be politics news for that city, but somebody's Little League game would be sports news for that city. If it's the high school football game, it's broader distribution. So we call it the market, which is defined by television DMA. And then obviously the Monday Night Football game is national news. Still sports, but it gets distributed to all the zip codes. Make sense, right? That's how the world works today. So
I can go in there, and if I'm thinking, I want to know what's going on in Topeka, Kansas, I can put in Topeka, Kansas, and up pops the page. And whoever your journalists are in that community covering those things, that stuff's up there. And then you scroll down and it goes into more national news, which is very handy to me.
It's like the local newspaper in every city in the United States wrapped inside USA Today. That's what it is. Okay. And the model, what we have is everybody understands YouTube, and YouTube has a monetization model. Now, the way YouTube works, you were in the broadcast industry, correct, Rick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But 99.9% of the people on YouTube have never been a broadcaster, ever. Okay. And so somebody says, oh, I want to have my own, show about politics or about sports or golf show, or, I want to do a cooking show. Well, all of a sudden you could be your own broadcaster. And then it's up to you to build an audience, and the cream rises to the top, right? So if you're producing great content, as people find you, they're going to go, oh my God, I want to see his next show. And so you build an audience. And then once you build it big enough, YouTube shares in the ad revenue because they sell all the ads because it's a platform, right?
Right.
The way our product works is we take somebody that wants to be in, a news reporter. Now they could already be one and lost their job, or it could be somebody who's never been in the business before. It really doesn't matter. Okay. We have like YouTube has a broadcast technology where anybody can be a broadcaster.
Right.
We have, our technology allows everybody to be a local news reporter, and the cream will rise to the top. So if you're somebody that's proactive in the community, you always wanted to work for the local paper, but you couldn't get a job, and now you're certainly not getting a job, that person can sign up as what we call a citizen journalist. And what they do is they go to the city council meeting and they listen, they take notes, and then they write a story and they share it out with the community. It's hosted on our platform. What we do is sell the ads, and every time the article is opened, you share in the ad revenue. It's no different than YouTube, right? But a
Right.
lot of a lot of the people on my platform, they have their own social media following. And so what they do is they post it to me, then they share the link on their Telegram or Facebook or whatever they're on, and all their audience comes to me to consume it, and then they make money off the article. So basically, the way advertising works on the internet is if you're an advertiser, Rick, and nobody sees your ad, you pay me nothing.
Right.
If 10 people see me, you pay for 10 people. So the way our ad model works is if nobody reads your story, it's absolutely worthless to me, Rick.
Right.
Okay. That's how it works.
Right.
So you submit your own content. When we publish it, you share it out on your social media pages, and it drives the audience to your own content. And then you make money. It racks up in your digital bank. That's how it works. So the future, here's what I'm going to tell you. The legacy media is going to be gone. What's going to replace it? And this is 100%. I'm not even 99. It's 100. They're not going to survive. And it has, and by the way, I told you this before, Rick, it has nothing to do with lying. It's an outdated, antiquated product. So they would go away anyway. The simple fact of the matter is they sped up the process by about 2 to 3 years because they've been lying through their teeth and nobody's watching them anymore. So the younger generation consumes everything online. This is where it's all going. So for us, we're building our own news organization, but it's all through what we call citizen journalists. And if somebody wants to become a citizen journalist, we're not going to stop them. I mean, if you want to report the news, believe me when I tell you. Somebody said to me, well, how do you know they're any good? I go, have you ever seen mainstream media? I mean, anybody can beat that. So,
right. Well, and the other question you answered for me the other day, and I think I want people to have I want you to have the chance to do this, is they say, well, what about people being fair and putting their making sure that they're being non-biased and they're doing their information, looking up their information. And your answer to that I thought was really good.
Cream rises to the top. Okay. So what'll happen is, people say to me, well, do you fact check? I go, I don't have to. The only thing a journalist has, Rick, is their reputation, is their credibility, right? And when you start lying to your audience, give me an idea how long before they figure it out and leave.
Right.
It's almost instant. People aren't dumb. Okay. So what'll happen is we will get them. I haven't got them yet, but we will get people that infiltrate, that start to put out BS. Now, how could I possibly know what happened at the city council meeting in Schaumburg, Illinois? We don't. But let me tell you who does. It's the people who were there and the people in the community that know. So when that journalist puts out that story, we will get hammered with emails saying, this is a BS story. It's not true. I was there. This happened. We'll look into it. And if it's true, we get rid of the journalist. It's just that simple.
And the nice thing is too, I think you're giving people in a community the chance to report. You're almost, it's like that little, when you go into a small town and you go to the cafe and there's a little piece of paper, like a little newspaper, and it tells you everything that's going on in that little community that day. And you can find out a lot of stuff in about 10 minutes. And you're providing that, because people, I don't think they trust journalists anymore. So now, if here's Edgar, and Edgar's doing a story on your city council, if he does something that the city council says, wait a minute, we didn't say that, he's going to get it from his own community.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's self-policing that way. And I think the good thing is, you say, well, who are you trusting? Well, who are you trusting right now, people? I mean, if you're turning on ABC News, do you really think, and I think that's part of what legacy media has gotten wrong. And I used to say this to my bosses when I was a TV news anchor. Who sits and listens to somebody at a desk feeding you, telling you information and smiling at the right time, and we'll be right back? Nobody buys that. They should have had us standing in front of a brick wall going, hey, did you hear about such and such? This is what's going on in the city meeting. And they weren't relevant. And so now you got people on YouTube that are doing it just talking to people. You got Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. They've changed the whole landscape of people sitting and listening actually for 3 hours to a conversation, and how refreshing that is. And you're providing a venue where stuff like that. I've been putting my shows on yours, and it's real fun because it's a different audience of people, and it's just another way for people like me, content providers, to have another platform to put it out there so that more people can see it, and it benefits you. And if I do it right, it's going to benefit me.
Exactly, Rick. And that's what this is all about. Everybody wins here. So you're looking for broader distribution, right?
Yeah.
And monetization.
Right.
That's what we do. But the difference is we could have millions of people that are content creators because we can localize it. Because I could take somebody that signs up to become a citizen journalist, but their focus is on arts and entertainment or movie reviews or a food critic, right? A restaurant reviews or a theater critic locally. And that has nothing to do with your show, but those people are bringing traffic to their own content where your stuff resides.
Yeah. And that would be, wouldn't that be interesting if people, like you have foodies in Portland, Oregon, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden they go, you know what, we want to start our own little channel. So instead of doing that, they could come on your news, do reviews, take videos, take pictures, put together something, put it under your food category and or entertainment and lifestyle. And you all of a sudden, and that could give people the experience they need to move on to other things as well. I mean, that's pretty cool.
No question about it. It's like YouTube. People, there's hundreds of millions. Well, there's 114 million was the last I checked, was how many people had YouTube channels, of which 99.99999% never had their own show on network TV. Never.
Right.
And all of a
Right.
sudden they're broadcasters and the cream rises to the top. It's going to work the same with us. I honestly, our focus, which I told you before, is on student journalists. And here's the reason why.
Okay.
Number one, they weren't part of the problem, right? They weren't working for the mainstream media, pushing out all the BS. Number two, Rick, how many? Now, I didn't even hear this. Washington Post laid off how many?
Oh, it was the it wasn't Washington Post. It was no, I can't remember. It was one of the big papers. It might have been the Post. It was one of the big papers.
Well, that's
Washington
a big one.
Post. It was one of them, but it was like 200 people.
I know. CNN laid off 200 a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and then
Was that-
ABC, like I said, ABC. No, it was a newspaper today. They
Okay.
announced they're laying them off, and then it was the other day that I read where Good Morning America is taking all their staff with another one of their other primetime shows. I don't know what it was, and they're mixing them all together. In other words, they're just they got to get rid of people because nobody's watching and their numbers are tanking. And and I think what I love about working with younger people is they'll tell you what's relevant and what's not. And a lot of what legacy media has been doing is it's just irrelevant to, I mean, have you ever said, I haven't watched for so long, and I used to, when I was in the business, I'd watch, like a Good Morning America or something. I'd sit and watch that. And now you turn it on and you're going, oh my God, I don't care what you had for dinner. And I don't care that, what's the best place to buy a placemat, and they do these things. It's like, I got real things going on in the world that I want to know about. And I think they've just, that what you're doing, to me, it seems, is you're giving kids an opportunity, students, to come in and go, no, let's set the standard for how this is done and how people want to pay attention. And they want it done right. I mean, you know what I mean? Students, I think.
Hey, look, the reason I'm dealing with the students is because when they get out of school, who's going to hire them? You really think people are hiring in the media? But the answer is no. There's not going to be any local papers. So who knows the internet better than the younger generation? Okay, because I'm not the younger generation. They know it better than me. So it's the kids that understand this stuff. You're never going to get the old guard to be part of the new. The legacy media people are never going to be part of new media. It's going to be all the younger generation are going to take over. They understand social media. They understand how it works. And they're going to be the ones that become the next go-to person in their community. The whole trick here is you need to stop censorship, right? You need to have a free speech platform where everybody's voice could be heard, where news could be shared freely without censorship, right?
Right.
And let the public decide what they want to read.
Right.
You have these, they called them George Soros funded, things about like, Snopes, where they were, okay, well, it turns out it was us that was actually funding it, right? Through USAID,
yeah, it was our tax dollars.
Our tax dollars, right? We also burned down Minneapolis because it was our tax dollars that were funding, the crowds to go out and do all that stuff. It's kind of comical. So,
but if you don't have your news or something like that, because let's go back a couple of years when none of that stuff was being reported. I mean, remember when they were peaceful mostly peaceful riots. The business owners whose buildings were torn down and they're destroyed didn't think it was mostly peaceful, but we were so censored about that and COVID and other things that were going on. And I think that's what blew up. I think that's what when the censorship went away, that's when people start going, wait a minute, how come I didn't know that? And now they're rejecting the old way because they were part of the problem.
Part of the problem.
And
Yep.
now you're providing really a skeleton where somebody could come in and go, because I could produce a 30-minute show and put it on which I do, and then I put it on your platform. And it's how much do I want to work that, and what I can make, how I can make money, how great am I going to make my content that I can put on that's interesting to people. So it's up to me to sell it. You're just providing a place for me to put it.
From the
You know,
platform. And I could
could
have
you
millions of you.
You know what I think also, Sam, what could be really cool is
What?
retired people who, live in Eugene, Oregon or Talent, Oregon or whatever. And they just go, they're interested in this. So they go sit in the city council meeting and they start putting news together. Like, people that have time. I remember when I covered courts, when I was a reporter, there was a whole group of older women and they just hung out. It was like a soap opera. They'd hang out and go to trials. You could go to a trial and then report on it every day. And you all of a sudden have something you're doing and maybe make some cash on the side of doing that. You know what I mean? It's really an opportunity for people to get involved in their community and a really valuable resource, because not many people are going to go sit at a city council meeting and report what happened. And because it's the news stations, the local news, they're not doing it anymore. I mean, it used to be we had crews in those places. You had an assigned job. But if somebody wanted to take on something like that in a community, you could have your own place, and your news would give you a place to put your information. And
100%. That's what this is all. This is what it's all about.
So but what's your background? Why do you give a damn?
So, I really, when I started this, I did investment banking. I did capital raising. I never in a million years thought we would be in the position we're in. And, up until, before Trump got elected, this was just an endeavor that I was doing, that I was looking to build and sell off. And that was really about it. And then when I finally figured out that the mainstream media was lying, I went, this is way bigger, because what we do is going to replace them. And you can't put this, this product should not be owned by me. It should not be owned by you, Rick. It should be owned by everybody. We, the people, right? Because at the end of the day, what I'm doing is putting the power of the press back in the hands of the people where it belongs. You need this. And not only in this country, it needs to be global. So another conversation we get into, I mean, I just called my, my developer today to say, look, I had a long conversation with two people in Canada and they're just crying and moaning for me to put up a Canadian version. But I told them, I need you to do this tech first to get this in place, which is going to benefit you, Rick. And then after that, I want to put up a Canadian version. Now, it's really a zip code table. He's going to look into how we need to do it. But at the end of the day, there's 150 countries I can go into. I mean, you're talking about a global media giant. There are, let me tell you something, you've seen it. There's almost 500,000 people on LinkedIn that call themselves freelance journalists. And for those of you who don't know, it means I don't have a job. Most of them are part of the downsizing of the legacy media. There's almost 200,000 students that are student journalists, and students don't go on LinkedIn, which means there's a hell of a lot more. It's for business. There's no students in business, but they may have the page. So there's a couple 100,000. My marketplace is freaking massive, and they have nowhere to go. So, my background was something completely different. And I always tell people, imagine, Rick, I don't know if I told you, but me and you were developers and we built the football stadium, but we're not playing in the NFL. But what we do is we build the building, then we bring the teams in, which are the draw. And we go, and people come out front to come in, and we sell all the tickets and all the concessions inside. That's what I do. I'm not in the news business. I'm in the platform business.
Right. And you saw a good, you saw a good idea for a business. And you said, oh, okay. You didn't realize that the legacy media was going to hand you.
No, this was an accident.
Now it's a business. And I know it always had a purpose, but now it's a business with a real purpose. I mean, you know what I mean? When all this started going around, you all of a sudden, it's like, I think people could gravitate to this. And what I think would be cool too, is if people just started reading and started going, wait a minute, I could provide some stuff. I'm active in my neighborhood and in Portland, Oregon, or Spokane, Washington, or whatever, and start putting information on there, because it goes right alongside everything else. And I think it's a great idea. And I hope people look at it. Now you're trying to raise some capital for what? Now talk to people a little bit about that.
So all the tech giants, everything you see, they're all funded through, Silicon Valley, right? So I don't care, Amazon, Facebook, Netflix, Uber, eBay. If they didn't get funded, none of them would have ever made it, right? And the reason is because every business, I don't care if you're opening up an ice cream parlor or an oil refinery, it's going to take a certain amount of money for you to go to from the red to the black. So you need the proper capital to scale it. And it's simple. One could be done organically, which might take 100 years to get to the finish line, or you could bring in an infusion of cash, and it might take 2 or 3 years to do the same thing because you have the capital resources, which means you could acquire the people to be able to put the plan in place to get it done. So what we're doing is something called an equity crowdfund. Now remember, this is all I've ever done was raise capital.
This is your real, all that new stuff. You don't know anything. This is what you know.
I don't have to. I'm in the platform business. I'm not in the news business. So, for me, raising capital when you're dealing with private placements is you always go to institutional players. Want to know why? They're the ones that got all the money. That you don't go to somebody who doesn't have any, right? You go to the people who are looking for the deals. The guy who's actually fishing wants to catch a fish, right? So you need to go to him and say, here's the bait I want you to use. Well, in this case, when you're dealing with the institutional players, these guys are always looking for stuff. Some deal in biotech, some people deal in technology, some people deal in oil, certain stages. But, in my business, you'd have to have a network of them and know who likes what. So when something came across your desk, you just say, oh, I know who will like this. Bill will like this. And you take it over to Bill. It's just how it works. Well, the issue is we're living in something in the world we live in today. We have what's called centralized news, which means you have 6 institutions that are controlling the narrative. Obviously, the narrative is skewed by government. Okay. Yeah. Now, before it was just a conspiracy theory, but with USAID, we now know how much money went to them. Okay, Reuters, AP, 260 million to 6,000 journalists. Give me a freaking break. They're all bought and paid for, because everybody used to say, how could they just lie like this? I mean, are you kidding? I mean, this didn't even happen. I mean, the Hunter Biden laptop, they're pointing out that's all it's not only regular, it's Russian disinformation.
Right.
Hey, yeah. Why did they say, it's Greece disinformation, Greek disinformation? It's got to be Russia.
Because they took all the names and said, who scares people the most? Russia. Oh. I mean, they're doing it again right now. It's out there that everything is.
But nobody believes it anymore. You ever seen the numbers of these people? I'm on podcasts that get freaking twice the reach of some of these people. And they get 5 million a year to have 50 or 60,000 people watching.
Yeah.
It's all a house of cards. It's coming down. It's all coming down.
So you're putting the word out on this, trying to get some investors to make it because it's going to get big enough that it needs that.
Oh, I'll get the money. It's not even a big deal. What I decided to do was not go to the institutional players, which would be the easy, because I have friends of mine I play golf with that are institutional players. They have family offices, hedge funds, private equity firms. What I decided
who are you going to?
Well, it's the people. Okay, because I want this to be owned by the people. So I'm doing 2 rounds. The first one I'm doing is 5 million. I'm going to follow it up by a much larger one. But what I wanted to do was disperse this to the people, Rick. Okay, so they actually own it. I was at a Reawaken America tour. It was in Miami. There were 5,000 people there that were all patriots. And I said to myself, these are the people that need to own my product, not one guy that writes me a check for 5 million, right? It needs to be owned by 5,000 people. That's what needs to be owned by. So that's when I said we need to do something called an equity crowdfund. And the way equity crowdfund works, for anybody who knows, if you're an accredited investor, it represents 1% of the population. So you can only sell to 1% of the population. What an equity crowdfund does is you're still selling stock. It's done through a brokerage firm, but it's done on a platform. And you don't have to be accredited. You could spend as little as $200 and everywhere in between. So to me, I said that makes sense, because people are disgusted with what's going on in America. Right. And rather than let all the institutions make all the money, I'm going to give you guys an example. Every nickel was funded by Amazon came from institutions. They funneled the money, built the business, and then when they took it public, you got to jump in and they were selling their stock to you. Not all of it, but a piece of it. Okay, that's how it works. So billions were made before you even got in. So what we're doing is going direct to the public. I'm going to do another round, and much larger, and then I've already got the systems in place to take it public. And I think the marketplace for this, Rick, is going to be massive. People, because you're talking about a game changer in the media space. Remember, I'm the only player. We have the opportunity to corner a freaking market and own 100% of it. And I'll get that done.
Do you think by giving the public the ownership, we the people the ownership, it makes it more? I would think that would make it more accountable. You know what I mean?
Of course,
Because,
but you want them to own it. This is too big for me or for you. It needs to be owned by everybody. So I made it so anybody can buy in. So they can spend $200 or $200,000. It doesn't matter. So that's the most important piece, is distributing the media platform to we the people. That's the whole key to this.
so how do people find out more about that?
Well, from our platform, like if you go to yournews.com and you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see become a citizen journalist. So if you would like to become a monetized news reporter, you click that link, fill out the application. Once it gets approved, you'll get email notification with like instructions on how to use it. Rick got one. And then just to the right, a few, it'll say, because you'll see login. It'll say
Really easy, super easy.
there's one that says invest. Now, what it'll do is it'll take you to a place called Issuance Express. The name of our company, the holding company, is called Nico Ventures Inc. It's no different than News Corp owns Fox News, but nobody calls it News Corp. They call it Fox News. So Nico Ventures is the holding company, because the plan is, this is a roll-up model where you're going to roll up specific verticals. So I could acquire somebody that has a horse racing or boxing site. You bring them under our umbrella. And then that person is the editor for that particular category. But what you're doing is you're taking all their revenues, all their traffic, and you're bringing it right to a specific category, which creates more value for the company as a whole. So the reason that we're taking it public is for two reasons. Number one, I believe the exit on this thing is going to be massive. Number two, you're able to acquire other companies with stock, and the people that have these verticals like horse racing, but there's no scale to them. I mean, how many people watch horse racing, Rick? Really, percentage wise? I mean, it's like 1%. Golf, how many people watch the Golf Channel? 2% of the population, 1%. I mean, it's minuscule, but yet they generate, a huge amount of money in revenue. So those verticals, for us, the whole is worth more than the parts. So for the people we acquire, they're going to have a much bigger engine. They're going to also attract a bigger audience, meaning when you post your stuff and you bring your audience, maybe they like horse racing.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. And maybe the horse racing people like your show.
Right.
It's a massive cross-pollination, both local and national. So,
yeah, and once when I was telling you earlier, we do this segment called Crazy Oregon News. Once we figured out, we rebranded it. Once we figured out the timing on putting it on there, now everything else on my YouTube channel is jacking up because people came because of the Crazy Oregon News, and now they're looking at the other one. So I'm going to start throwing a couple of those on our Your News page for Oregon, and I want to see what it's going to do. I'll take them off of from there and share them to you and see what happens.
Good.
That'd be kind of fun.
That's the whole premise of the product. We're a news content distribution platform with mega scale. And what we're doing is taking all the country's information, which everybody will give it to you freely, bringing it under one umbrella and creating one uniform media. That's it. You ever hear people call them media moguls, right? So you heard the expression, information is power. He who controls all the information has all the power. Make no mistake about it. Okay. Right. So that's why they're media moguls. I'm so much not interested in having all the power. I'm interested in distributing that to the people.
And isn't that the way it's supposed to be?
Yes, that's the way it's supposed to be. What the hell do you think I'm doing this for? If I was 40, I wouldn't do it this way. I would take all the power. Now I'm 60. So I got a limited lifespan here. So we need to get this done. And that's why we're doing it this way. And, we've raised a bunch of money. I've got more coming. I'm sure we're going to bring in some bigger players that, when I say bigger, I mean people that are writing 500,000, million, stuff like that. That's fine. What I'm leaving out is the institutional players for now. Second round of funding, I have a couple friends of mine. I'll probably bring them in and I'm going to tell you why. It's because we could take this global. No problem. There's 2 million people out of work. I'm only as good, like I can only do so much. You have to know your limitations. I have never built a global media giant. You need people that know what the hell they're doing. So that's where you bring in some institutions who then bring in a team because they know all these people.
Could you imagine to have a place where you could go, you see something, in somewhere on a page and it's about Brazil, and you can go on a Brazil page on your news and you can find out what was going on with that story or what happened in Brazil today. I mean, that, you know what I mean? That's powerful for us as just individuals to be able to go, somebody, because right now I think the media puts out such bullshit, and then, somebody goes, well, where do I check that? Well, what if I can go right to the town? Like when those people were in the, when all those Venezuelan gangs in Colorado, in that little town, and then it became this big story, what's really going on? What's really going on? If they were on your news, I could go on there and find out what the people were saying, not what the media was telling me. And I could know for sure that they were actually there. Not like, well, it wasn't this big a deal. Well, to Marge and Bill and Jan and all the people that live in that neighborhood, it's a big freaking deal.
Yeah.
That's the power of this, I think,
Completely. I mean, look, at the end of the day, all industries eventually will transform. I mean, think of it this way. Remember the movie or the show Star Trek where they beam people, right? Well, if somebody could create that technology, you realize nobody would ever fly in a plane again, right?
No.
Okay, so that would transform the industry. Whether or not it happens remains to be seen. Well, everybody is witnessing it. When you have a guy like Joe Rogan, who's bigger than every single network in the United States, double daily. Yeah. Okay, you got to know something's changing here. Okay, I mean, he's literally got 100% more than what all of them combined have every day.
And when I was in the business towards the end, they were down to like 30-second and 60-second stories. Nothing. I used to do 7 and 8 minute stories, and it was like, no, you can't do that. People won't pay attention to that. Joe Rogan's doing 3 hours and proving that people do have an attention span. They don't have just an 8th grade education like we were told in the news business. They don't have to be talked down to, and they're on an equal footing with the people on the television and Joe. And that's why. So he's proven everything that they said was wrong, and he's making millions. And here they are dumping staff like, the turds in the lunch pail.
Rick, it's over. Okay. Yeah, it's over. Yeah. If you can't see the writing on the wall, you are just dumb. Okay. It is over. Okay. Yeah. Like I tell all these people, practice these words. Welcome to McDonald's, man. Take your order. Because that's about the only job you're going to get. There's no more hiring in the media business. They're all letting everybody go. So you have to know it's got to be a platform. You need a like the reason X and the reason that Facebook and YouTube get all the traffic is because they can have participants of millions of people contributing. And that's what drives the audience. The days of quality control is over. It's a free for all. And that's all I'm saying. So
I think that's healthy to me.
Yes, it's healthy.
I can weed out the bullshit. I mean, if you're not smart enough, well, look what they're doing right now. You got the media putting out all these lies, and people bought it. And then they're saying to you, someone like you or me, well, who's monitoring you? God.
The people, right?
Exactly. If people will call me out as soon as they, I do something wrong like that, so they should. So that's how it works.
Exactly.
Sam, I'm excited. I think it's really, I think this is going to be a cool thing for people. And I'd love to see so many people get involved in it, because the competition is yourself. It's how good and how willing are you to work and put out information and stories that people want to see and need to see. And what are you going to put into it? It's not about, working for the right network,
Yeah. And we have people that have figured it out. Okay. So remember, anybody could get the Monday Night Football game anywhere, so that's not important. What people really care about is the things that are happening in the community.
Yeah.
And so period. I don't care. So, the Monday Night Football game, great. Who cares? But it's the high school game. It's the city council meeting. It's the school board meeting. It's the stuff that really relevant, that impacts your lives. That's the content they want. And the way our product works is the more links, because every time you post something, Rick, you're going to get a link, right? That link is a business. Every time it gets clicked, it's like a cash register going off. So I have people that are producing local news, like 5, 6, 7 stories a day, because they're just they're regurgitating it. It's quick. The bank robbery, the car crash, the city council meeting, because they're just off of press releases and they rewrite them. But here's the point: those are the people making the most money, and then they fill in because they have. Let's say you did 5 stories for the day. They're all like 3 paragraphs, right? 4 paragraphs. So you have 5 stories. Well, all of a sudden, 30 days later, you got 150 links in the system.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, a year later, you got over 1,000. And that's my point. So whenever somebody does a search, that comes up, they click it. It's like a cash register. But the advertisers don't mind because they're getting traction.
Clicks. You know what? The last thing I'll throw out here is I think small town newspapers, the reason they've survived is because they're doing what you're talking about. Is they still talk about Johnny and Billy and Susie in the basketball game that was played in Cottage Grove High School and blah, blah, blah. And can you imagine if those little newspapers I would take advantage of you. I would sign up and start taking my stories and posting them to your page to get more traffic and to get the word out more. You already wrote it. You already got the picture. Just take the stuff, copy and paste it, stick it on your news, and then all of a sudden Cottage Grove or Crestwell or whatever Oregon has a page, and you're using it as a distribution thing. I mean, use the system.
They look at me as competition because they want everybody going to theirs, but it's kind of like you creating an eBay product for Bend, Oregon. You really think you're going to compete with eBay? They'll run right over the top of you.
Right.
And so what we're going to do by the time you got, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 news reports, it's over. Okay. I mean, we just ran right over the top of you. Now everybody's just going to join.
Yeah.
That's where this is all going. So the race right now is to corner the market, and we're the only players. So you corner that market, you're looking at something that could have look at Rumble. I mean, they bounce between 2 and 4 billion on a market cap. They hardly have anybody. I mean, YouTube shook off a few fleas, right? And all of a sudden, these guys got a $2 billion market cap. Market cap on something like this would be astronomical because you are the YouTube.
Yeah. Sam Anthony.
Yes, sir.
You're on the show. Thank you for thanks for letting me play on your platform. I just have to get a system in where I getting them put on there in time. It's just
get them on there. Get them on there because the content creators keep coming. And so then they drive more traffic. Your stuff just gets broader distribution. But yeah, that's what this is all about.
All right, Sam Anthony, your news. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate being on the show.
You're welcome. All right, you guys. So there you go. You ask me all the time, where am I supposed to get my news? Where am I supposed to get my information? Maybe you become a citizen's journalist, and I'm serious about your little newspapers. You have a circulation of what? If you could tell your clients and your advertisers that you're putting it on this your news outfit platform, then think of the possibilities of things that are going on. I've got 2 other TV stations in Oregon who've contacted me in the last week saying, we really like your content. Will you put it on? So I'm going to start putting all my stuff on all these different platforms to see where it goes. I mean, that's how it works today. You don't just put it on YouTube. You don't just put it on Facebook. You get it out there and work those systems. And Sam is offering a platform that people can work with and do things on. So, I know some of you guys are on here just talking, going, "Hey, this looks like a good idea." So check it out. Go to you guys just click on there right now, yournews.com, and you'll find it. And then you plug in at the top what city you live in if you want to get local news. And he's still working this up, so there's not a lot of Oregon stuff on there right now, but that's where you come in and that's where I come in. We're going to make that happen. All right. Share this on your page. Let other people know what's going on. We appreciate your time. We do have a really interesting show coming up. When is this? Thursday night. All you guys have been writing me and telling me about this crazy law in Oregon, a bill that will put meters on all of your well water. So you'd be metered on your own water, on your own property by the state of Oregon, and they'd start charging you at some point for your water use of your own well. It's total bullshit. And the measure has been tabled a little bit, But according to this expert that we're going to have on, they're still toying with it. So it could come back at any time and adding things on. And that's the plan for the future. You guys have been bugging the hell out of me to do this, and I want to do it, but I had to find the right guy. And he's coming on Thursday night, usual time, 4 o'clock in Oregon, 5 o'clock in Montana. I'm going to tell you about this, but I'll tell you what, if you live in Oregon, you're going to be shocked. But if you live anywhere else in the regular world outside of Oregon that doesn't think like this, you're just going to go, what the hell are they doing? Metering your well water and any stream water that comes onto your property that you happen to use. Crazy Oregon news. Keeps me busy. Have a good week. See you guys later.